How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be building the lift frame here at East West Futons. The lift frame is a metal frame and it comes in one box, as you can see just here behind me, and we're gonna get started. Here we go. All right, so now we got the frame out of the box here. Justin here is holding our instructions. As you see, it's not very clear. That's why we're making this instructional video here, and we're gonna show you. So grab your instructions, put them to the side, grab your hardware, and we'll get going. Okay, we've got the instructions here, and we've got everything laid out. So we've got all of our bolts and washers here. They're labeled P, L, and K. So P is the long ones here, and L is the short ones here. And we've already put the washers on the end of them, all 12 of them there. More of the small bolts. And then we've got our tools here. So you've got an Allen key and a little wrench, and then the two hinges. And the hinges, as you can see, are labeled right and left there. So got everything set up, and we can start building. So the 4 bolts we have up here with the nuts on the end, these are gonna be for the hinges. So you can take those aside and keep those for the hinges and leave the rest of these ones here just without nuts on the end. Okay, now we're gonna take all the pieces away from our area that we're gonna build it in. Make sure you've got lots of space for building. Just makes it a lot easier here. So Justin is moving the seat deck and the back deck over. And then what we're gonna start with, we're gonna start building the foundation. So we've got 2 rails here. We call these stretcher rails. They can go on either the front or the back. They're not labeled either way. They're reversible. And as you can see here, one of the end pieces here is labeled R. The other one is labeled L. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna build our foundation first. So lay everything out flat like this, and then we will start attaching the foundation. So make sure you grab 4 bolts, and we're gonna get started. So we're gonna start on the left-hand side here. Now it's the left-hand side when you're facing the frame. So make sure that L is on the left-hand side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna place the stretcher rail, and it attaches in there. As you can see, that it's a threaded hole. So not the ones with the nuts, but the other ones. There's one on the top, one on the bottom there. And just put it in just snug. Don't tighten everything super tight yet. So when you're putting it together, make sure that if you're gonna be starting with the left-hand side, that you do the left-hand side, both the front and the back rails, and then go to the other side. Okay, here we go. One thing we're gonna add in here is that when you're putting the end pieces on, remember that the metal lip here faces to the inside of the frame and not to the outside. So whatever side is labeled R or L, make sure that that lip is at the bottom and facing in. Okay, now that we got the foundation together, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our Allen key here, and we're gonna just make everything snug. So first we used our hands just to make it hand tight. Now we're gonna use the Allen key to go around and make everything snug. So now that we got the frame all nice and tightened here, we're gonna put the hinges on. So make sure that, when you're facing the frame, you got the left-hand side on the left, the L, the right-hand side on the right. You'll be able to tell because the 2 holes in the side piece will be closer to the back of the frame instead of the front. So Justin here is holding some bolts with washers. These are the small bolts, not the long bolts. So on our instructions, that is the L. So grab that, and we're gonna match the L up with the L, and we're gonna put the hinge on. So we pulls it flat like that to make sure that it's straight. And what we're gonna do is, on the hinge here, I'll show you. So this part here, you see how there's kind of a half cutout, and on the back there's a half cutout. Now the bolts aren't gonna go through where the hole is. The bolts are gonna go through where these half cutouts are. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift the hinge up to the edge, and we're gonna take the bolt, and the bolt goes through the outside of the frame, facing to the inside of the frame, and through that half cutout spot. And then attach it with a washer. And just finger tight it first. And make sure you do it on both sides. So bolt through the outside of the frame to the inside, and just use your fingers and make it tight first. And then just flatten the top there. So if you look, you can see once again everything is through that half cutout part at the end on both sides. Now this is the inside of the frame. I'll just show you here. And so those two bolts on the outside just look like that. So now we're gonna grab our little tool here. This is a little wrench, and then use the Allen key on the outside of the frame, and we're just gonna go ahead and tighten these here. Awesome, now that we got it nice and tight, we're gonna go ahead and do the right hand side. So Justin's grabbed his hinge, he's got his two bolts with the two nuts. He's gonna take that hinge and the right side is gonna match up with the right side on the inside of the frame. He's gonna pull it so that it opens up straight, like that, and he's gonna attach it. Okay, so now we've got our foundation built, and we have our hinges attached. One more time, just to reiterate, the left-hand side when we're facing the frame, right-hand side when we're facing the frame. We match the hinges with the letter R to the R, the letter L to the L. Now we're gonna start working on the seat deck and the back deck. So we have them laid out here on the floor. Make sure that when you're putting it on, the wood bows upwards, not downwards, upwards. So the bow in the wood is up. So the part with the gripper pad here, this is gonna be the seat deck, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna attach the back deck first. So now what we're gonna use is the longer bolts there and the washers, or nuts I should say. Let me just show you on the instructions one more time. So those long pieces there are labeled as P. So there's 8 in total. We're gonna grab 4 and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the back deck on. So once again, make sure that the wood is bowed upwards. And the reason why we laid the hinges flat like this is so that we can rest the frame, the back deck I should say, on to where the holes are there. So before we put the back deck on here, you can see on the hinge that there are 4 pre-drilled holes. What we're gonna do is where Justin's fingers are, we're gonna attach it to the ones farthest out, so closest to the back of the frame. And when we get to the front, we'll show you how to do that.
The holes.
So we've got the holes there. They're lined up as you can see. As I look down, you can see right through to the ground. We're gonna take the bolts, and they're gonna go right through the top of the frame, both sides, and then down underneath. You can see Justin's gonna tighten a nut onto each one there. And once again, just make sure that you're just doing it finger tight first, and then we will tighten them all the way afterwards. So once again, we did the back holes, bolts through the top, attached underneath there. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. Here we go. So now we've got everything just finger tight here. We didn't tighten it completely yet. So this is the back deck. Now we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna put the seat deck on. So the seat deck, once again, make sure that the holes here, out of the 4, we're gonna do the 2 facing the closest to the front of the frame. And just remember that the wood bows up and it has the gripper pad on top. Okay, so we're on the front. The bolt is gonna go through the top of the frame, and then we're gonna attach the nuts underneath again. So we're going from the top of the frame through, down, underneath there, and we just attach it with the nuts. Now that we've got the seat deck and the back deck attached, we're gonna go around and make sure that everything is nice and snug now. Don't over tighten it, just make sure that it's snug. So to tighten it, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Allen key and our little wrench here. I'm gonna take the seat deck and it just lifts up, clicks once, clicks twice. Now that's in the upright position. So we're gonna keep it like that, and we're gonna tighten everything. So all we're doing now is we're just putting the Allen key through the top of the bolt, using the wrench on the bottom nut, and we're just gonna make it sure that it's tight. Now that we've got the seat deck all tightened here, we're gonna grab the frame and we're gonna pull the seat down set it down there, and we're gonna go around to the back, and we are gonna tighten the back deck now. So Justin's gonna show us here, when you're tightening the bolts with the nuts here, always make sure that you're using the wrench to tighten it and not the Allen key. And the reason is so that if you start twisting with the Allen key too much, you're gonna indent the frame there. So it's better to always tighten that nut on the back. Now if everything's done properly here, you can see that the frame here, as it lines up, that rail will sit on the leg right there, and then down to the other side here, lined up, sitting right on the leg there. So as we go up and down, that's where it's gonna rest. So this is the lift frame. There you go. Always make sure to keep the instructions and the tools in a safe place for future moves.